Greetings War Thunderers, this is Longshot with you again with my guide to flying the first US Air Force P-51 in arcade. This Tier 3 plane was introduced in patch 1.70.1945 in May 2015. At the time of this video its battle rating is only 3.0, but I don't expect it will stay that low for long. That's because the plane is a bit of a clubber. I'm making this video in order to help ensure that more people fly it to its strengths. You'll obviously get more enjoyment in doing so, and also help ensure that the battle rating is adjusted up to around 3.7, which in my view is what it should be. So starting with the armour. It has a plate behind the pilot and various shielding in front, which I suppose is average for a Tier 3 plane. The pilot should be fairly safe when attacked from behind and in head-ons. The internal components reveals a large coolant tank which is exposed if someone gets on your 6, and other than that there's large fuel tanks in the wings which are vulnerable to deflection shots from above or below. In practice I've found this plane to be a lot more resistant to damage than the later P-51Ds in the US tree. Right, so after you've finished gawking at those Hispano cannon, let's see what it can do in a test flight. Starting with the roll rate, not bad, fairly average really. Into a banked horizontal turn to see how tight its turning circle is and how well it retains its speed in the turn. My rule of thumb is that if it catches its smoke trail, then it's a decent turner, which this plane obviously is not. Holding its speed around 320 km an hour, which is fairly good, but not great. Next I'll hold left rudder and up elevator together, which shows that both control surfaces are pretty well balanced. It doesn't want to pull to the side more than it wants to climb, or vice versa. I've continued up into a climbing spiral. The plane's lost its speed very quickly, and the size of the spiral is very large. P-51 cannot hope to shake off another fighter with this manoeuvre. It simply lacks the necessary engine power, and the slower the plane gets, the less it wants to turn. But it's still handling smoothly, and levels out of the spiral without any hint of a loss of control. On 100% power alone, its acceleration from low speed is quite poor. Unless you're desperately trying to force an overshoot, don't get slow in this plane. Okay, high-speed handling test with a vertical dive, rolling the plane to look for compression lock-up of the ailerons, and there really doesn't seem to be any. Maybe it slows down a hint past 700 km an hour, that's all. Rolls really well. Let's check rudder response at these speeds. And the nose wants to lift, which will make aiming difficult. Also the elevators are a bit reluctant to push the plane downwards at high speed. So the plan will be to roll the plane as needed in order to adjust aim, with upward elevator movements and as little rudder as possible. Now up into a vertical zoom climb to see how much altitude it can recover, testing both its energy retention and engine power. I started the climb at a height of around 500 metres, and it starts to struggle as I pass 3,000 metres, which is where I'd normally level off for a 2.5 kilometre gain. I'll keep going up into a stall hammerhead. Let's see how quickly the plane responds and aligns with the mouse cursor. A second of delay, and then it's back under control, and that's not bad at all. Lastly, I'll see how well it can loop from a 320 km an hour starting speed. It's still doing over 200 km an hour at the top of the loop, as you can see there, which is fine, no danger of stalling in this manoeuvre. Okay, so it's definitely not a dogfighter, it's an interceptor with good boom and zoom characteristics, and that's how I'll look to use it. To start with, I'll show one of my first battles with the plane, still in stock condition. Right now it's very easy to research the plane's modules, but if and when its battle rating increases it may become more difficult, so I think it's worth taking a quick look at this. Also the habits you form while flying it as a stock plane will directly flow on to your use of the plane when it's spaded. As you can see, I've steadily climbed at a speed of around 280 km an hour IAS. The plane's obviously a poor climber, but if I'm going to use it as an interceptor then I need altitude to generate speed in diving attacks. As a stock plane it's really not capable of fighting for control of high altitude. There's far too many fast and agile planes that'll climb faster than this can. And in this battle there's several enemy fighters above me, so I need to start looking at diving before I become a target. The KI-61 up there can fly circles around me. P-38 and a climbing Typhoon have the firepower to shoot me down quickly if I make myself an easy target. Beneath me are several planes that I could potentially attack, but first I have to ensure that I survive this early phase of the battle, and that means watching those higher planes like a hawk. Build up a lot of speed in this shallow dive, so when I sense an attack coming from a Tiffy, I lift quickly into an evasive climb. And then I can follow the Tiffy as he tries to extend away. But I'm not quick enough to get the kill this time. There's another Tiffy down there in a boom and zoom, and because I've kept my speed fairly high, I can catch this guy as he tries to climb away. And that's what 4 Hispanos will do to a plane, even using the default belts. Quickly over into a dive to avoid becoming a slow, easy target myself. Looking around, I see the P-38 is approaching. I face his head on, snap off a short burst that misses, then get out of the way. So far so good. I've weathered the initial storm, gained a kill, and my plane's still in one piece. Only the KI-61 remains at altitude, and he stays up there most of the battle, and while I keep an eye on him, he never presents a real threat in this game. He did prevent me from climbing too high though. Here I've gained about 1 kilometre of altitude, and then basically roamed around looking for planes to dive on down at ground level. It's amazing how effective only 1 kilometre of altitude can be when it comes to generating enough speed to close with a target, attack, and then extend away to safety. As I dive in, I'm looking for the easiest target, which will be this P-51, as it presents a nice deflection shot. Didn't luck out with a kill this time, but I'm not hanging around. I'm running back to make sure that I haven't picked up an attacker of my own. As I do, I see a Blenheim approaching to bomb the tanks near the runway. Because I've kept my speed high, using WEP as much as possible, I'm in with a shot at running him down. First though, I need to wait and see if he survives attacks from the friendly LA-5 and a Spitfire. I'm just looking for a deflection shot at his full profile here as he turns, but I haven't quite rolled my plane far enough to match his wing angle, and the rudder lifts my nose, causing me to miss. I keep with him in the high-speed turn. I'm able to land a more accurate volley. This time I have the kill along with a parting gift from his gunner as he goes down. So as a stock plane, I've found the best tactics are to gain just enough height to dive at low altitude planes and stick to hit and run engagements, either picking off isolated targets like this Hurricane or diving through a furball at high speed and then extending away. This is one of the new cannon-armed Hurricanes, which could easily outturn me, but he set himself up perfectly to be blindsided here, and that's the kind of target you want, not someone who's aware of you and trying to get guns on you. One last sequence from this stock level battle before I move on. I'm diving toward a furball with several enemy fighters down there. On the way in, I pick off a climbing Hurricane and then run down a P-47 and take him out when he tries to turn. All at high speed, they didn't see me coming, and I barely had to maneuver at all. The weakness of the P-51, its poor turning and its poor climb rate, are never exposed while in combat, so I'm at minimal risk of being shot down. Okay, let's skip ahead to when the plane's fully researched. When spaded, it's capable of climbing up to bomber altitude, reaching 3,800 metres in 2 wet periods from a 2,000 metre spawn at a constant indicated airspeed of 270 to 280 kilometres an hour. There are faster climbers out there for sure. If you have good hit registration, I suggest setting a long-range convergence and opening fire in head-ons at up to a 1.5 kilometres distance. You'll score a lot of easy kills that way and quickly gain control of high altitude. If you're like me and head-ons just don't work for you, climb to the side as I've done, then look to engage in high-speed intercept passes from the side or behind. In this case I picked off a Yak, who only belatedly decided to climb up. I think it goes without saying that you can and should hunt bombers. Your high-speed and powerful guns will make short work of them, and as it's so easy to do, I won't waste time demonstrating that aspect in this video. Shooting down fighters is always more interesting, especially as many of them can outfly you if you let them get close to you with equal energy. I'm making sweeps here across the battlefield, trying to engage a succession of climbers, but there's a lot of friendly fighters up here in this game, so kills are actually quite hard to come by. As a result, I'm venturing lower and closer to the enemy fighter spawn, not to attack them as they spawn in, but to get their attention, either cause them to dive out to the ground or turn to attack me, as this lag has done. He had second thoughts about following me when I looped up, but he still wants to force his way up here. He split est away from my second approach, and I'm not going to follow as I don't want to be sucked down to their spawn altitude. I know his intentions though, it's just a matter of circling and watching for his next attempt to climb. And now my patience is rewarded. He doesn't see me coming on this pass. And that dive has taken me close to their fighter spawn again, so I quickly lift up into a climb and take the opportunity to look around while I reload. Particularly I have to be careful that no enemy dive bombers spawn in and come down to take me out. I'm thinking of taking a diving run through that furball when a P-38 spawns in alarmingly close. I could easily dive straight at him, but to me that wouldn't be right. A newly spawned Yak 7s head straight for me though, and here's the benefit of keeping my speed so high. I'm up into a shallow climb with Webb. A bit of roll and rudder to angle above his line of approach, and avoid presenting my wings as a target. Just keeping him within that 800 meters range or so to keep him interested. I rudder over as I sense he's low on speed, his nose drops, I catch him as he stalls. Another Yak's coming in fast, so I'm immediately up into a loop. Now he's already climbed 1,000 meters to get up here, so I'm betting he can't follow me. I simply continue over in the loop and then drop down for an easy shot at the full profile of his plane. This is obviously a far cry from the stock plane's limited capabilities, but the fundamentals are the same. High speed, hit and run tactics, simply with more of a vertical component and at a higher altitude. Here's two fighters trying to climb and attack a couple of friendlies near the bomber spawn, and I have an easy intercept on this Spitfire. The MC-202 down there is preoccupied with someone else, so I can easily drop down and deal with him as well. Okay, now I need to climb a little and take stock of the situation. There's two Hurricanes down there, both with cannons and a Spitfire, and they look like they want to climb up and engage us. I'm not going to dive at them. There's no point risking a head-on against those Hurricanes. Let them climb first and lose their energy. I'm going to fly across the top of them instead, so if they want to attack me, they'll have to point their planes straight up, which will lose them even more energy. Okay, time to attack that Spitfire. It only has machine guns, but it's the best climber of the three planes and a dangerous one if it gets up to me. Extending away, which means that the Hurricanes will need to turn in order to follow me while climbing, thus depleting even more of their climbing speed. That should be far enough. The closest of the two Hurricanes is flying away from me, making him a very easy target. Into another zoom climb. The last Hurricane will have turned again to follow me, and now he will be seriously low on speed. He's going to try and get his guns on me as I loop over to attack. But by keeping my speed high and climbing a bit more in that loop, and starving him of energy, he simply can't lift his nose, and he again is an easy kill. Sometimes, of course, there'll be no targets higher up. Everyone will be lawn mowing and can use your altitude to gain a ton of speed in long, shallow boom and zoom attacks like this one. The most important thing about diving onto lower planes like this is your exit plan. In this case I'm flying straight toward my fighter spawn, so I can just continue on towards safety after engaging the target. I roll in the direction of his trajectory, which makes it easy to get a gun solution. In long, shallow attacks of this nature, it's often possible to line up several planes to deal with in the one pass. But this tactic is not without its dangers. There are planes that can run you down. In this game I'm outnumbered by enemy fighters at altitude, so I'm diving to attack planes down on the deck. I was hoping for targets in the central valley, but that's deserted at the moment, so I choose this lone Focke-Wulf 190 flying out to the side of the map. Look how much speed I have built up in this dive. Surely nothing can catch me, right? So I thought. Also look how quickly that speed sheds off as I deal with that 190. It's dropped well into the 700s already. And looking behind me I can see a Focke-Wulf 190 A4. He saw me flash past as he spawned in and simply followed me. And I'm not outrunning, he is gaining. And now it's a drag race. I'm heading out to the side of the battle, and he flies a little to the west of me in order to stop me from turning back toward my own spawn. So while he's chasing me, I'll take the opportunity to summarise my recommended tactics for the P-51. Speed is the key to this plane. You don't want to be slow in combat, and you definitely don't want to turn fight with it. I recommend climbing to contest altitude, engaging in long-range head-ons if you have good hit detection. If not, then climbing to the side. Kill as many bombers as you can and look to blindside fighters with fast hit-and-run attacks. Use loops and Immelmans to starve climbing planes of speed while preserving your own. And always plan your exit strategy from each engagement, as you want to avoid getting into situations like I have here. My speed's finally starting to drop as the energy from the dive evaporates, and now the superior engine power on the A4 is allowing him to close in. I have no choice but to dogfight him, so I duck behind this hill to get him close while denying him a shot at me. I hadn't fought an A4 with a P-51 prior to this, so I had no idea how the planes would match up. My first thought was to try a climbing spiral and see if he ran out of energy before I did. I know the 190 has a weak rudder, so I was hoping to use my rudder turn to gain a reversal. However, it's simply not happening because, as I showed in the test flight, the P-51's reluctant to turn when it's slow. In fact, the A4 is gaining on me right now. He shows no signs that he's struggling at low speed at all. He very nearly gets a gun solution on me here, and I'm forced to nose over and dive to regain some speed. My situation would be extremely bleak at this point if it wasn't for a friendly P-39 who's doing his best to help out. Once again I have to rudder over and dive to avoid his guns, and this time I decided to keep going, jinking around a little to make myself a hard target, but hoping this will allow my P-39 friend to shoot the guy down. I'm also attracted to that Stuka that just flew past underneath. If I can shoot him down, I'm hoping the A4 pilot will be enraged enough to make a mistake. There, let's see what happens. I'm just going to weave around these trees. I can see he's very close from the minimap. There he goes. I forced an overshoot. I assumed that he'd pulled up into a high yo-yo, so I lifted up hoping for a shot at him, but instead he just flew away, and that allowed him to get separation from me. And by attacking the Stuka, I no longer had the A4 selected. That's why I lost him. Anyway, now he's using my trick against me. He's going to hide behind the landscape as he runs. I try a few long-range snipes here, which rarely ever work out for me, and don't on this occasion either. But he's not done yet. Despite the presence of the P-39 here, he's really determined to shoot me down. As soon as he thinks I'm not looking, he turns back, and I have to dodge a head-on with a snap roll, taking serious damage to both wings. And now I'm back in a dogfight with gimped wings, and I'm afraid I will not last very long this time. Strangely though, the A4 pilot makes a mistake here and breaks off. Perhaps he's finally taken notice of the P-39. That gives me a chance to line him up and shoot him down, and I profusely thanked the P-39 pilot afterwards. By the way, I didn't record it, but about 10 seconds later a new A4 turned up, singled me out for a head-on, which I survived, but I was powerless to escape when he turned back for another pass. Anyway, so you can be run down in this plane, and dogfighting with anything is usually a very bad idea. Lastly, here's a battle where I decided I wanted to push hard, stepping up my level of aggression, which doesn't come easily to me as I'm naturally a conservative pilot, and getting as many kills as I could in the quickest possible time frame. I've just climbed up to bomber altitude. I'm going to take out this B-25 while knowing that there's a 109 bearing down on me. And I was thinking if I dropped this B-25 quickly, I'd turn to attack the 109, but unfortunately it took a few seconds before I managed to shoot him down. The 109's a little close for comfort and closing in, but still outside of guns range, so I decide just to dive away. Okay, he's not following me, so I could either use my speed to helicopter at him from underneath, or I could simply look for targets at low altitude, which is what I decide to do, as there's plenty of them. I'm thinking of the Corsair out to the right, but he's becoming a bit too isolated and flying toward their spawn, so I switch back to the middle. I hope for a shot on this F6F here, but I haven't rolled my plane enough. The rudder will lift the nose as I try to follow, and I miss. I do get a nice shot at this yak though. Hitting WEP to keep my speed high as I gently turn back. I'm hoping there'll be targets to choose from when I burst back over this hill. But there's only a Fury. He'll have to do, I suppose. Okay, I'll take a few minutes to regain some altitude and look around. All clear behind me and above. I especially want to keep track of that 109 I saw at altitude at the beginning. There he is. Last thing I want is to be boom and zoomed while not paying attention to him. Okay, that's far enough. Time to plan the next engagement. And there's a B-25 off to the side blowing up tanks. Nobody's attacking him, so he's an obvious target. On my approach, I continue to keep looking around. It's important to do so. This looks like it'll be fairly straightforward. Hopefully I can drop this plane quickly and then move on. Nice deflection shot here, but no, it's not enough. I can loop over though and hit him with a second volley, which he won't survive. And that's headed me back toward the battle. I am, however, a little low on speed for my liking and ammunition, so I reluctantly turn back toward my spawn while I reload. And while I do so, I'm looking for potential targets. Bunch of planes out to the right, no one particularly close. And to my left is a Stuka. But it'll take a little while to reach, and he's just one plane, and it'll take me away from other targets. And my goal in this battle is to kill as many as I can, so he isn't the ideal one. A decision's going to be made for me. I shot a Yak 1 down earlier. Now as pilot's back here in a Yak 7, he saw the red skull beside my name and went for me. And that's why I usually don't bother looking for head-ons, even with 4 Hispanos. I only get hits. Normally I'd never consider dogfighting a Yak, which is far superior in this situation to the P-51, but I'm right in front of my fighter spawn, and I expect he'll be swarmed in no time. So I just want to hold him here. Indeed, he's already taking some damage. He's still alive though, and my speed is too low, so I need to dive a little and accelerate. That brings me under his guns, which I will duck away from. I decide to dive and drag him down to the deck. Yes, there's no doubt about it, he wants revenge. He's going to ignore everything else until he gets me. So up into a hard brake to the left, then into a steep climbing spiral. I'm trying to use his superior energy retention in a dogfight against him, hoping to force an overshoot. And now I have him. Okay, just set him alight, that's all I have to do. And now it's time to push on and look for more targets. I have some altitude from the climbing spiral that I can use to immediately dive at this BF-109. There's another red dot on the minimap right near me, but I don't know what or where it is, so I go evasive, hugging the landscape as I extend away, and as I do so I spot a Hunkel 111 out to my left. And there's the plane. It was just a TBF. I could have killed him if I'd known it was there. Never mind. I'll deal with this 111 and then hope to come back to him. So for this whole battle I've been constantly looking to attack, seeking out target after target and maintaining as high a speed as possible. The only time I wasn't on the attack, the Yak 7 caught me and forced a dogfight. In the space of just 5 minutes I've scored 7 kills. Had this been a logger battle and I kept up the same pace, I'd be looking at a tally well up in the double figures, potentially netting over 20 kills, which this plane is certainly capable of doing. Well, I hope this video helps you to get the most out of this plane, and that we can all work together to encourage Gaijin to raise its battle rating, as 3.0 is simply too low. Anyway, until my next vid, good hunting, and I'll see you in the skies.